एक सेकंड मुझे लाइव
Is he around, Professor Khadka?
It got disconnected.
I think it's got disconnected, right? Might also be a little late because he said he was traveling, so there could be some internet issues as well. Yeah, but then he told me he would inform me. He's not done that, so I suppose.
Hi, Bhanu sir. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
Bhanu sir would also be there. Yes.
Ashish Tiwari sir. Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Namaskar, sir. Ashish sir, thank you so much for joining. I think now we can officially start.
Yes, I think.
Yeah, wonderful. Ashish sir, thank you so much. We suddenly lost.
Do we see the video?
Yeah.
Anu sir and Ashish sir. Somehow I'm not able to.
You were connected in mobile?
No, I'm on the laptop. That's what I don't know what happens. Is it like
I'm able to see you.
Oh, okay, Bhanu sir. Okay, namaste sir. Yeah, now I can see you.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so much. Yes.
So I think we should not delay. We should start.
Yeah, we should not delay. We should not. Absolutely.
So okay. Asif, you can make it live now. You can make the discussion live. So viewers, thank you so much, all our experts, the educators from Nepal joining us for this wonderful webinar today, international webinar, in fact, on building synergy between India and Nepal. 2 minutes on our organization. Policy Times is an India Delhi-based media cum strategic think tank. Our one aim that we want to achieve in our lifetime, we want to be a development media contributing in nation building. So in our lifetime, we want to make India one of the most prosperous nations of the world. Then make the global world a better place for living. Now, what is the background when we started asking this question? How do we make India a better place or the world a better place of living or a prosperous society? We realized education is the foundation for prosperity. Any nation which wants to be a prosperous nation, the education system has to be world class. Then only the country can be world class. That is how we started contributing in education. We have done more than 150 webinars since lockdown. The lockdown gave us a lot of ideas, actually, innovative ideas as to engage global educators in single platforms, and Zoom being the number one in terms of connecting us globally. So we want to achieve and contribute to 3 areas. One is school university connect. The other is cross-border connect, and then education industry connect, because at the end of the day, our students have to go to industry for jobs as well as entrepreneurship. This is how we have been doing a series of programs. Today is actually the launch and beginning of web series with Nepal. So we want to bring educators of Nepal in a platform like this and discuss how India and Nepal can collaborate. This is the beginning. So the structure of the event is we have some keynote speakers, and then we will have some of our school education leaders. So this program is divided into 2 sessions. We will strictly follow the guideline timeline. So 7 minutes each. Our keynote speakers will speak in the first order session. In the second session, we will have the education leaders who will speak for 5 minutes. I would request not to repeat the same point we are talking, and in fact we cover wider points so that we cover wider and we don't repeat, we don't waste time. The second is we speak in bullet points so that the idea is not about having a long discussion of hours. It is about some action agenda we draw out of the discussion. So after this session, we will make a small note or report about what kind of action agenda we have in place, and we can take it forward. So with this, I really want to request everyone and welcome everyone. And I first want to actually request our first speaker and the co-organizer of this, Mr. N. Senthil Kumar, Senior Director, Business Development and International Sales, UPES-Dehradun, to kindly deliver inaugural address or the theme address of the session.
First of all, thanks, Ikram. Thanks for bringing me in and the organization to have a wonderful conversation with a very eminent panel of speakers from Nepal. Um, before setting the context, let me give a brief introduction about the university. So UPES is a, is a multidisciplinary university. So it is around 18 years old with 44-acre campus, which is one of the safe and scenic environment of Dehradun. Yeah, of course, if our campus ends and the foothills of Himalaya starts. So the recognition and accredited by across all top statutory authorities of India. You call it UGC, NAC, NARF, NBA, and we are also international rating agencies like QS has given across 5-star for many of the categories, including academic development, program strength, employability, and the campus facility. If I talk about International Accreditation Council, if I talk about ISEAB, AIU, IAU, all we are all members of this eminent bodies and represent a true culture of learning ecosystem at UPS. So what is UPS is known for is UPS offers a very unique and specialized undergrad and postgrad programs with industry alignment and emphasis on the holistic development. That has been a primary focus. So if you ask about UPS offers around 150 industry focused program across key domains like information technology, infrastructure, power, aviation and aerospace, oil and gas, public policy, transportation, safety, environment, design, planning. I can go on with the key areas which any nation want to develop it key stakeholders, particularly from the student community and working professionals across all those areas we work upon. So we, as a campus, we have around 15,000 students. We have 20 plus industry linkages. We have 100 plus global alliances. We have students from across 40 plus countries. That is where UPES plays a major role in imparting quality education, not only in India, across the globe. So I come back to the theme. So let me set the context very quickly. So when Akram bounced this idea on building synergies in education between India and Nepal, I was so happy to build this conversation because world is changing at an unprecedented pace and scale. If in my top of mind, I can talk about rising of emerging markets. South Asia suddenly has become a key destination for across people, across countries is very actively looking at this particular space. Aging of a global population, that's one of the key concern if I talk about. And power of disruptive technology. Technology is going to be the future. Every single field is going to be enabled by the technology. And the world is integrating as a one place as well. And there are a lot of return of certain geopolitics. So all this, it's changing on a rapid pace that talks about the need and essence of strong collaboration between the nation. So that's where I was really jumping into the idea of doing this wonderful conversation. Undoubtedly, pandemic has battered the education system across the country. While pandemic has affected at every level of education its unique way, if I talk about school education, higher education, but higher education may have a new learning curve. That's what we expect across. Learning in new realities, which means adaptability, realigning, rediscovering, inventing methodologies, even if I talk about on technical and creative frontiers are going to develop in a very big way. More than that, going back to roots of innovation in new form is going to come up across in teaching, learning. Even this is going to be the new buzzword called reskilling, upskilling, unlearning, and looking everyday practice through a new lens is going to come up. So COVID has provided e-learning is not only a persuasive, but has a far better reach as well. The focus on e-learning, e-practical, we are not talking about just learning. E-practical is making a better impact, particularly in the regions where we have a long community of connecting with good faculties, good resource on remote location, in the rural parts across the world. E-learning has become hands-on to do that. Experiential learning in all stages. So if I talk about experiential learning, will include hands-on learning, arts has been integrated, sports and integrated education, storytelling based pedagogy, these are going to be emerge as a new frontier. Standard pedagogy are going to phase out in a new phase as well. Classroom transactions are will going to shift towards competency based on learning and education. So on the whole, all-round development of a student is going to be the key intention for the educators. Higher education is going to play a very supporting and sustaining role for the industry, not only by promoting student innovation driven towards thinking on solving a global problem or a social problem, and it also going to embrace on environmental challenges and creating new problem solving ecosystem. So there is no longer required for just theoretical approach. A problem solving approach has to emerge. So coming back here to India and Nepal in particular, so if I go back, the entire, if I talk about top South Asian leaders have benefited from education in India. So India has been an amazing educational hub for Nepal. And I know for many years Nepal students come to India to study for areas like natural sciences, humanities, social sciences. I know personally a lot of Nepalese of Indian alumni has saved Nepal public services, civil sector, international offices in over a period of 70 years. So all this culminated towards their contribution because of learning from a place has left them uplift in the area of politics, economy, society, cultural, and even literature and sciences as well. So that's why there has been a very strong focus on talking about collaboration as a key for success on the way forward. UPS also offers so many amazing scholarship for Nepal students to pursue their higher education in India. So we have been very keen and actively working on capacity building programs, faculty development programs, etc. So I'm very actively looking at keen contribution towards taking it this next forward. I think Policy Times is going to play a very active role in embracing the same as well. And I'm looking forward to have a more evolving and strategic dialogues to make this a very realistic approach in the context of relation between India and Nepal. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
again.
so much. Thank you so much, sir. Absolutely on time, 7 minutes. I was really afraid how do we, cover the time. So thank you so much. I want to, so absolutely the points you mentioned, we will work on that. COVID-19 was just not another simple incident in history. It was the third world war. It has changed the world. The world will never be before what it was like. So I want to also request and welcome Ms. Roshi, who has been an instrumental help in terms of organizing this program that we have today, and a series of programs that we are going to organize with or in partnership with UPS University in Nepal, with educators and also with students in future. I want to request Ms. Roshi, maybe in 2 minutes, just an intro remarks from you, then we will go into the flow. I don't dare to actually break the flow that we have decided, but yeah, let us I think stick to that. But now women are going to lead the world, and whenever women led the world or countries, they have done better. So I would take their help in terms of inviting the other speakers as the flow we have decided. Ms. Roshi.
Thank you, Namaste, Akramji. Thank you so much for your kind words. I'm happy we have all the eminent speakers right here, and as you said, I'm here not to moderate this session. So, of course, as we have discussed already, the idea is to explore the potential areas of collaboration and also to exchange the knowledges among the institutions. And despite the fact there is a great degree of homogeneity in teaching learning across the world, but in terms of the cultural context and the country setting, that has a great bearing on how we impart education. And in that context, I think the shared cultural heritage of South Asia, I think that's what we can identify as Orientalism. And in that respect, India and Nepal, we are similar in a lot of terms. I would not take a lot of time. I am just so confident that the exchange of ideas and the exploration of issues by our eminent speakers today would definitely herald a new beginning in shaping the future of the primary, secondary, and the tertiary education. So I welcome you all once again, and we're very excited to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roshi. I now may I request Professor Khadka Kesi, Executive Director and Center for International Relations, Tribhuvan University, Nepal, to kindly deliver your keynote speech. Yeah, you have to unmute, sir.
Thank you very much, Akramji. Namaste. Good afternoon from Kathmandu. Santa ma'am, Gita ma'am, all the distinguished educationists from Nepal and India, and organizer Akramji. Thank you very much for inviting Tribhuvan University to be a part of this online Zoom meeting or conference. And this is Khadga Kesi. I'm a professor in international relations. My areas of interest is also international relations and diplomacy. I was the head of the Department of International Relations and Diplomacy Department of TU a while ago. And for last 2 months, I'm working as the executive director of this Center for International Relations of TU. And I'm very glad to see many educationists from Nepal as well, and even though it's a digitally. So for this opportunity, I have to thank Akramji and the organizer from Dehradun and Delhi. So, let me speak for a while about Tribhuvan University, and I will talk about India and Nepal's like educational academic collaboration, and then after, what are the opportunities we have been foreseeing for at the moment while collaborating academically between India and Nepal, and challenges at the end. These are the 4 points I will toss upon in this evening uh, seminar. Well, Tribhuvan University, many of us, those who are from Nepal, uh, know that it's a pioneer academic higher education institution in Nepal, established in 1959, though compared to many colonial legacy country in other parts of South Asia, like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India, because of colonial legacy, many of them established university quite long ago. For example, Dhaka University has established 100 years ago. Compared to those universities, we are latecomer, however, it's the oldest one in Nepal in 1959, and 80 plus percentage of higher education has still being covered by this university in this country. And we have a 9 faculty institute and faculty within the university, 5 institute and 4 faculty, and there are 62 constituent campus of Tribhuvan University. It means that it's one campus, and there are 42 central departments which offers PhD program in university campus in Kirtipur, Kathmandu, and we have 1,123 1,123 affiliated colleges throughout the country. So it's kind of like from east to west, and every hook and corner of this country are being like it's not mean that control but looking after by this university, so that we do have some 8,000 around faculty, from lecturer to professors, and almost similar number of administrative staffs of this university. I mean that almost 16,000 human resources are working under this university. So, well, we do have 155 MOU with university across the globe. Out of the 155, 29 are with Indian University. So I have just like today is my is a second month. It has become 2 months when I taken over this position. And while going through the list of this MOU of many universities across the world, I did my grad school in Japan and United States, so that I didn't have chance to go to India for higher education. However, once in a while I have been in India for a conference and meeting and seminar. So many universities with which we do have MOU in India, seems like in my reading for last 2 months, many Indian universities are approaching me. So I'm being a bit selective. So frankly speaking, I'm being very selective while having engaged with many Indian university as well. So IIT Kanpur, IIT Kolkata, and so there are some IIT with which we do have MOU. And last 2 weeks back, IIT Dean of Kanpur visited our Institute of Engineering, our University Institute of Engineering campus Pulchok. So I have coordinated an MOU with IIT Kanpur. So what I'm trying to say is that with Indian University, uh, this is an academic platform. So uh, we should not be that much diplomat, however. So frankly, we can speak frankly, unlike diplomatically. So we do need more engagement with the Indian university, and the most beneficial engagement with the Indian university is like IIT. Those IIT with which we do have MOU are the most beneficial for producing human resources for Nepal. And many of the university with which we do have MOU are really remain idle. And it seems like that some Indian university are trying to first sign MOU with TU to make business that you guys are you guys can get equivalence. In our country so far, TU has accredited to provide equivalent for government job. Whichever university you graduate from across the globe, even from Kathmandu University, TU has so far, TU has to provide equivalence to that individual. So in that context, some Indian universities are trying to force MOU to attract Nepali students, saying that now we do have MOU with your university so that you can study here and then you can get equivalence. That's the business policy like. So that I'm trying to be a bit selective while having MOU with Indian university. That's the one simple problem. However, having said this, Nepal and India is some of the previous speaker, even Professor Kumar, and I will always thankful to India, of course, for last 7 decades, even during the 1930s and 40s. Since after 1930s, many of our political leaders, many of our uh, elites were graduated, trained from India. Especially BSU was those days in 40s, 50s, and even 60s. BSU was one of the temple of Saraswati of Nepali so-called or Nepali elites. And in early 2000, now JNU has become one of the another mastermind for political architect of this country, especially for political architect. So in that context, India in science and technology, engineering, nursing, South India, Bangalore, those part of South India, of course, Uttarakhand, because of geographical proximity, many of our people from the far western Nepal, they choose they choose Uttarakhand first rather than Kathmandu because of geographical proximity. So that we do have a really close engagement. But at the moment, what I will wrap up, Roshiji, in a minute. Uh, in for last couple of years, after I leave the our department, international relations and diplomacy, what I experienced when I approach JNU, when I approach some other Indian university uh, for a collaboration, so they often they often encourage me to approach come up through embassy, which I don't like to go through. Universities always should go through the university academic, unlike to the diplomatic and bureaucratic channels. So because of that hurdles, I don't like to have more engagement with the Indian university officially. So with JNU, we have a MOU, but nothing happened because of through an MOU. 2018, JNU president came here, BC came at TU, but after then we don't have any engagement with JNU. So having said this, this is the challenges. Challenges is Indian university doesn't offer scholarship officially, and they ask us to come to the embassy. That officially do not better way to get engaged. So that what I would like to suggest Akram and other friend from India, that we have a wonderful history. We always want to engage. We want to learn more from Indian top academic institution. Unlike we don't want to engage every Indian university, or we should be selective. But for that, let us try to find the easy way to get engaged, to promote academic collaboration from now on. Thank you very much. If I have taken a bit more
No,
time,
that's
so
fine.
please pardon me. Thank you.
I think
Being a
wonderful
professor,
point.
we can speak hours, so that it's 70 minutes is very little. No.
Naturally.
Thank
Actually,
you so much.
we always want
Thank
bullet
you.
points. So, bullet points, 7 minutes is the best in terms of getting the right points out.
Of
People
course.
and academicians love to speak for hours, but
Yeah, of course. We are not that much like outstanding brainy people, so that we can speak. South Asians speak quite a lot. Argumentative
yeah,
Indian. You might have studied the Amartya Sen book. Bade bade jai to tattvabudh.
absolutely so true. Thank you, sir. A lot of points, a lot of complaints also with regards to Indian universities. Believe me, IIT,
Not a
IIM,
complaint. It's a reality.
yeah.
I'm
So
not complaining
basically,
I
you.
have a point, Akram. So it's a wonderful insights, Professor. Thanks for bringing in all the points here. But two things I want to take a cue on two important points. So connectivity as such, I remember in 2018 there was a bus connectivity from Dehradun to Mahendranagar in Nepal. So I remember that. So one of a very strong connected place in terms of climate, culture, and ecosystem as well. And second, coming back to collaboration will only work if we identify on a strategic places and area of interest to proceed further. If you do an umbrella container model, that will never work in a engagement model until unless we fine tune and chop down to the niche area where we want to work upon. I completely agree with you, Professor, and it's a great insights as well.
thank you, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
My only reply to you, sir. IITs, IIMs are world class because they have huge government money. Believe me, they are not going to make India to what India is going to be. Believe me, the private universities which are looming large now, the university we have now, there are many other universities, Shivnadar University, GD Goenka University, OP Jindal Global University. These are the future. They are going to make India what it is going to be in next 10 to 20 years down the line. IIT, IIMs are outdated, outrated ones. They are just because they're funded by the government, they get the most cream talent of the country. That is why they are there. So this is
Sure,
the future.
Prabhuji. I just wanted to say one line. We are the public institution. No
Yeah.
matter whether we are outdated, this institution will remain until this
Don't want
country will
you.
remain. So that we don't want to we don't want to engage more with the private one, so that we can
No
only
issues.
for that.
So going forward, I want to invite another, basically a very humble human being, but leading one of the most important, organization of the country, Mr. Mithilesh Jha. Mr. Mithilesh Jha is again a wonderful person, head of the education, CG learning, and also chairman of Management Committee Kathmandu World School. Mithilesh sir, your comment in 7 minutes would be great. If you can frame, move your camera on the horizontal format would be great, sir. Your frame would be better.
Yeah. Thank you, Akram sir. Namaskar. First of all, I would like to thank Akram sir, Roshi madam for giving me this opportunity. Within Nepal, I'm in Biratnagar city. So I'm out of my local place and I'm not sure about connectivity of internet. However, I'll try to make sure within 7 minutes I wrap up my thing. Regarding Kathmandu World School, we practice progressive teaching pedagogy and we focus upon design thinking, innovation, and then what we have planned is that we want to go for
Sir, your camera is, I think by mistake got off. So if you can switch on your camera. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we are planning for 2058th century education pedagogy, how we can cope up the challenges we are preparing with artificial intelligence, learning management system, content management system, which is new for Nepal in the current scenario. And one big challenge that is with Indian and Nepalese education system is there is a big gap between industry and academic institution. We have many graduates we hire in our corporate houses, but what we find is they don't have required skill set. The same problem is within India. When we have graduates, they pass out engineering, they have MBA degree, but they are unable to find required job, or industry is not getting the exact required skill set. So this is a big problem in both countries, Nepal and India. And I think both these countries should work to bridge gap between industry and academia. This is one point common problem in education system for these two countries. In context of current scenario, COVID pandemic has caused a sizable number of enrolled students to be out of school around the world. The problem is more pronounced in developing countries like Nepal, where not everyone has access to the technological and other resources. However, this phenomenon also has a positive side, as most academic institutions, teachers, students and parents are better equipped today in terms of technological knowledge and resource because of the experience undergoing during the pandemic. And this a huge effect putting in place and executing online learning strategies. This will particularly benefit rural communities of developing countries. Similarly, in Nepal and probably in South Asia region at large, the amount of dedication, commitment, and hard work on part of students pursuing higher education is increasingly going down over the years. This probably is due to the culture and practices they are groomed in at school and high school levels. Schools and high schools thus are required to have a huge opportunity for putting in slightly strict academic standard for their students. In case of Nepal, we have very good opportunities that we promote mountaineering, tourism practices, which we like in India, river active program. Similarly, in India, we have sports academy, film industry, movie syllabus, which is not covered in Nepal. So we can have some programs, tuning programs, which we can collaborate and run together to benefit both our countries. Similarly, we can also promote scholarship opportunities for both countries. Even we can have some memorandum of understanding between these two countries to allocate certain number of seats for Indian students, similarly for Nepalese students there in India, which will help both countries' students to have cultural exchange. There could be some exchange program between our faculty members, because we have some cultural diversity, some geographical differences. When there is exchange program, we can learn from each other. And now this COVID situation has made this gap more easier, because we can conduct a lot of this webinar and this series of educational talk where we can exchange our ideas, we can grow together. In context of India, Nepal is a big market, because hundreds and thousands of students they travel every year because of affordable fee, similar cultural. Still, what we the big would be, as Professor had mentioned, regarding connectivity. Currently, we have railway link in Nepal up to Janakpur from Jayanagar, which is in India. So similarly, government of India has also planned for connectivity of railway from Kathmandu to Birganj. So if this is practically made, if connectivity of railway is made easier, then there could be a lot of travel of students from India to Nepal and Nepal to India. So that will ease educational exchange between the two countries. Similarly, there could be a lot of franchise program from India, which we can collaborate and which we can work together in context of Nepal. So these are the few points which I feel where there are a lot of areas of collaboration. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mithila sir. Wonderful to the point, and this is what actually we love about the discussion. Let's talk about the action agenda. I want to request Ashish Tiwari sir, the principal and director, ACE Institute of Management, to kindly share your views.
Thank you, Mr. Akram. First of all, very good afternoon to all eminent academicians present here, and thank you, Ms. Roshi, for connecting me to Mr. Akram and inviting me on this platform. I would want to actually say that we as academicians should be allowed the academic liberty of like exceeding time, because we are not very used to talking in bullet points, So and that is a disclaimer I'm saying before I start, because I might exceed time. So my prior apologies for that. No, I'll try to keep it with very much within time. So to start with, I want to go back and talk a little about like Mr. Senthil as he started, that how we are actually facing very uncertain times because of the pandemic and something which is very new to all of us. And the pandemic has brought many changes to the world. New paradigms have evolved, new business models have emerged, and we are all trying to adapt. And likewise, many changes have happened in higher education as well. And I would also want to, because I have been involved only in higher education, I would want to, all my thoughts and comments are related specifically to higher education, tertiary level education. Those changes which we thought at one point in time will take years to happen has occurred in a couple of months. The acceptance of the new models and the paradigm, and specifically in the higher education by both the students and the faculty members, have been very quick, and it has been very surprising to me as an academician being in academics for the last 20 years, how fast students, faculty members, and the entire ecosystem has actually responded and accepted the changes with very open arms, which is a very good news for all of us. Things like virtual delivery, blended learning, MOOCs, or the massive open online courses, which we commonly know as learning management systems, which seem to be far away in the horizon. Now suddenly they seem to be very near and a reality sooner than we all actually expected. This definitely is a good news, because it paves a new way and new opportunities and newer models for internationalization and cross-border collaborations in higher education. And I was particularly interested, very excited to come on this session, because my research interest primarily moves around marketization and internationalization and cross-border collaboration in higher education. And hence, that's why I said I might take a little longer, but then quite exciting times for exploring cross-border collaborations, not only between India and Nepal or in South Asia, but globally. And why globally? Because, and that brings lots of opportunities to this part of the world. Mr. Senthil, I would agree with you that the new education hubs are actually emerging, and we have seen the emergence of newer education hubs. And when we talked about the cross-border mobility of international students, we are seeing that large number of students are now coming on this part of the world, and newer education hubs like Singapore and China, and the likes of Asian countries and the Middle East emerging, and big universities opening branch campuses in places like Abu Dhabi, or if you say the likes of NYU in Abu Dhabi, or the likes of many American universities in Singapore. So the hub is actually changing. We have seen growing demand for higher education globally, and the number of higher education institutions as well. This has led to marketization, commodification, and increased competition in higher education globally. Now, what does that mean? I mean, higher education are certainly, they find themselves fighting on this, competing actually rather with each other, whether they are private or public. But they are competing with each other, and they're competing for students, for faculty, for funding, because we know that the global funding for education has been decreasing. So the pie is decreasing, the institutions are increasing. Now, given the scenario, internationalization and cross-border collaboration is the new mantra for higher education institutions to strengthen the institutions, improve instructional quality, and to remain operationally efficient and competitive. We have seen internationalization in form of increased student mobility. I mean, that has been there for quite a long time. We have seen international branch campuses, we have seen exchange programs, and we have seen other forms of partnerships cross-border. Now, with the integration of technology in teaching and learning and in instruction and in research, we are going to see newer forms of partnerships and models in cross-border collaborations. And we are yet to see what new and interesting and creative forms of models actually emerge in the days to come. India and Nepal, I mean, we talked about the global scenario. India and Nepal, the scenario is similar. I mean, talking about Nepal, if we see the demand for higher education has grown substantially. If you look at history, we see from being elite to now being, it is highly massified or a huge massification. I mean, from 38,000 students in 1980 over the decades, we are talking about 400,000 students last year. And from a gross enrollment ratio of 3% in 1980 to now, we are talking about a gross enrollment ratio of 14% in Nepal. And Professor Casey actually talked about Tribhuvan University alone has 1,200 institutions. We are actually talking about something about, I don't know the exact, but something around 1,600 institutions of higher education in Nepal. I mean, it's huge. So, for making these institutions of higher education sustainable, and also when we're looking at quality, cross-border collaborations becomes a necessity, so that we can make these institutions and the academia benefits from the cross-border collaboration. Now, if we talk about cross-border collaboration, I mean, the best, as we said, that in terms of language and culture and the physical proximity, India and Nepal can work out. There are many areas of cross-border collaborations, and based on established models of cross-border collaborations across the globe. I mean, specifically, if you look at Jane Knight's model of internationalization and cross-border collaborations, it actually talks about, and we can use the similar model for cross-border collaboration between India and Nepal. The first thing we are talking about, like people, so we are talking about cross-border mobility of students and faculty, and which can actually include exchange programs, and like students can spend a semester or more in the partnering institutions, internships, projects, and likewise the faculty can get involved in teaching, research assignments, consulting, sabbaticals, etc. Now, one question we all have to figure out is that how is all this going to be funded? I mean, we definitely have models where we can explore and see that how this funding is going to happen for cross-border mobility of faculty and students. But again, we can look at government scholarships, we can look at self-funding, we can look at industry. This is where industry can actually come in, and Indian industry should be more than interested to actually come in for funding these kind of exchange arrangements. And likewise, we are also talking about like the cross-border mobility can happen by the virtue of by the virtue of the exchange arrangements between the partnering institution. So we actually need, and as Professor Senthil was saying, that we need more engaging program, not mere MOUs, right? MOUs for the sake of MOUs, it doesn't help, right? So we need more engaging partnerships. The other thing of the please let me know if I'm running out of time.
It's 8 minutes.
8 minutes already?
Yeah.
So let me wind up. So I think give me 1 minute, and then I'll wind up. Another thing which I see happening between India and Nepal, if you're talking about cross-border collaboration, is harmonization of curricula across the two countries, and which is, I think, is a very possible thing to do. And when we are actually talking about harmonization of curricula and harmonization of quality assurance and accreditation standards between the two countries, I mean, that is a very possible thing which can actually happen. I mean, we have seen students going to different universities, and then once they come back to Nepal, or Nepali students going there, I mean, there are lots of issues related to providing an equal standard for quality assurance, and what kind of institutions they have gone to, and saying that, well, these are public institutions and they are listed, they have been there for ages, and hence they provide quality education. Because the student has gone to this particular institution, there's no quality. So we can actually set standards for curricula, award of degrees, quality assurance across the two countries, which is a very possible. I'm actually talking about something which is similar to the Bologna process in Europe. So, and once we initiate a dialogue to do this kind of thing, I think it will be really beneficial for the students and will really actually facilitate cross-border collaborations between the two countries. I think I should stop now. As we go further in the discussion, we can bring up more points. But likewise, I mean, there are many areas. I mean, let me finally add, because of the impact of COVID and acceptance of technology and integration of technology into higher education, the massive open online courses, which is now a reality, and they have gained more acceptance globally. I mean, a virtual university, virtual partnerships between the two countries will also be one area which can be explored, because with that we can also, to some extent, we can solve the problem of equity and access, so in higher education actually. So I mean, lots to do, and we need more platforms like this where academics can come together and have a discussion and see like what areas of cross-border collaborations we can actually work in higher education. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry, apologies once again for exceeding my time, which I knew I would. So I had apologized earlier.
It's absolutely fine. So 1 or 2 minutes is okay, but not as a norm, but as an exception. I want to invite now our next speaker. Okay, 2 points I want to say. Degree is going to be meaningless. Like, I have pursued my education from an institution which is a fraud and which does not exist today. No degree, no institution can stop me thriving my career, my business, and my work that I'm doing. What I mean to say, I'm nothing, right? A small person, but degree is going to be meaningless. Skills, entrepreneurial, skills that we learn, the professional skills we learn, and many other things are going to be the real sense in terms of the educators tomorrow, what they are going to provide. I want to invite our next speaker, FCA LP Bhanu Sharma sir, Principal Apex College and President and Life Coach at Jeevan Vigyan Kendra. Sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Akramji, and thank you, Roshiji, for inviting. 3 great ladies out there, and then all the gentlemen. It was indeed this a very good opportunity to understand, and then also to be able to share something. Thank you, Mr. Senthil and Mr. Ashish, because if someone speaks earlier than I do, I have so many things to learn from. So many things. Your mind is more engaged before you speak. After you speak, sometimes your mind goes on a dull mode. So basically, the Policy Times and UPES-Dehradun initiative. This is a wonderful initiative, and I represent Apex College. There's a premier business school in Nepal, and as every business school tries to do, we educate business leaders. And I'll get to point straight away, and then I will see to it that I honor the time. Okay. Because to me, time is God. This is what Bhagavan Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10. He says time is God, not just money. Okay, time is God.
Absolutely.
Now, I've spoken and I have attended a number of forums in India-Nepal relationship, especially in education. I'm a chartered accountant who graduated from Mumbai in 1992. So, and what I see, after I came back to Nepal is so many people, the Indian education, the Indian ethos, everywhere you see. And once I started contributing to education, what I found is, for example, Apex College or college has entered into workable MOUs with about 7 universities, from different continents, but none of them is an Indian university, none. And not only that, Asisi was talking about funding. What I see is this is one of the most important things when we talk of collaboration. It's most important thing, because I'm not talking about, I'm not telling you what I am facing. I'm telling you what a population is facing. These two populations are facing. So, the MOU that we entered into with the European universities, they are working very well because there is EU funding available. Okay, and it is not just live. There's students are enjoying, and there's so many things, so many value additions have already been done. But many other MOUs that didn't work out simply because the funding was not existent. Now, I'll throw some light on all the three dimensions of education. There's basically knowledge, skills, and values, and how we can collaborate. I'll not go into what currently exists. I'll talk about a few things that I have in mind. Number one is, what does South Asia stand for? And what do India and Nepal jointly stand for? I think we start, as Roshiji used the right word, I think we stand for Oriental values. Okay, we have to globalize Oriental values. That's the basic thing. That's the number one thing. Because if you don't, if you don't globalize your values, what happens is, people look at where does that education come from, and people look at the roots, people look at the origin. And if you are not able to globalize, if you're not able to take it, to a larger section, people do not have trust on what you do. So this is where I start, and wherever we can align our thoughts, wherever we can see to it that there's some cultural value, and there's something that comes from our Oriental thought, that is going to be the starting point, because we share so much of common values. And every time I speak, I'm puzzled why we are not able to work together in education. Okay, and not just that. Sometimes we take each other as competitors rather than collaborators. There's so many areas we can collaborate rather than compete. Another thing that I think can be started right today is research, joint research. That's something that we can start immediately. I'm talking of tertiary education because I also represent a college, which is in tertiary education. I do not understand many things that are there in the schools and in other levels of education. Probably Santa Madam and Gita Madam are better placed to speak on that. Another very important thing that I think we lack, and where we can collaborate, is library and knowledge management. Okay. Library and knowledge management, these two areas, they really broaden up the students. They make them global. They help them think in a very, very different way. But still, we have not been able to create synergy out there, because unless we share our resources, there's no collaboration going to happen. Collaboration is going to happen when we start sharing our resources. And what resources do we have? Okay. Another thing that I find where we can immediately start collaboration is student exchange. We have already completed a number of student exchange program with US universities, Australian and European universities, but not even a single with Indian universities. There's so many things our students can learn from India. There's so many things our Indian students can learn from Nepal. And if we want to build a very, very dynamic network and collaboration, students will have to be the frontliners. We cannot be the frontliners. They have to drive, They are youngsters. They will drive. Okay. I think I've used up 5 minutes of my time, and I still have 2 minutes to go. Okay. Another very important thing that I now find is, there's so many Indian entrepreneurs coming up. There's so many Nepalese entrepreneurs, Nepali brands also coming up. But somehow, this large market, the Indian market, and of course even the Nepalese market is there, not only in terms of education, in terms of other marketplace also. If we can, create some joint entrepreneurship programs, that would really trigger a new beginning, because at the end of the day, entrepreneurs are going to globalize your thoughts. Please remember this. Entrepreneurs are going to globalize your thoughts.
Absolutely.
If you want to globalize thoughts, then they have to come from entrepreneurs. Half a minute, I'm done. Okay. See, one or two things. In terms of climate, see Noida and then see Kathmandu. Okay, when Noida is favorable, Kathmandu may not be that favorable, but when Kathmandu is favorable, Noida is not favorable. So the nature is saying, the climate is saying, please come together. There's so many things that you can do together. And in many parts of Nepal, you don't need an air conditioner. Nepal is an air-conditioned country on its own. Okay, and there's so many things that we can think along these lines. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm sure that there are many others. There's intelligent speakers will throw some light on again my thoughts also. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Wonderful. This is why I love this 7 minutes window. Because it is 7 minutes, you delivered all your important points on time. And you all are educated, so you don't need half an hour, session to understand one perspective. So wonderful, innovative ideas that you shared, sir. And as Policy Times, as a think tank, and in collaboration with our Indian counterparts, we will definitely work on all the parameters. Library and knowledge management you mentioned is wonderful. Entrepreneurship, joint entrepreneurship programs. I think these are future. Student exchange we are already thinking on. Now I want to invite two of
I would like to add on
yeah.
what the, Professor Sharma said. It's a very valid point. To add to that, he coined a very important term called research as a collaboration, which is very key for any nation development. Research is going to be the driving force. Apart from that, joint publication and joint conferences which can impact students also. So there are a lot of frontline warriors like students has to get benefit of the knowledge which is going to impart to them. So those are other areas as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Wonderful sentence, sir. You added another feather into the points that he added. Vanu sir shared. Now I want to invite two women leaders who are really veteran contributing in the country, Nepal. And I think they have more than 3 decades of experience in the field of education, contributing and also leading one of the most important organizations of the country today. I want to invite Shanta Dikshit, ma'am. Dr. Shanta Dikshit is founder and director of Rato Bangla School. Ma'am, over to you. You have to unmute, ma'am. Yeah. Can you unmute yourself, ma'am? Okay, I'm just giving you, sorry. I hope I'm not disturbing. Please go on, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, the organizers, for the opportunity. Building synergy between Nepal and India. I will start with cases in which we have collaborated already, and then I will go and talk about my own thing, and then we can think about where the collaboration can be. Number one, Rato Bangla has a publishing house called Rato Bangla Kitab, and one of its favorite books is called Adventures of a Nepali Frog. It into 12 is going to be translated into 12 languages by the National Book Trust of India. So I think this is a really deep collaboration. And this same book, chapter 4 of this book, is being used. The parliament in Pakistan asked all their schools to use chapter 4 of this book in their schools. I don't know if this is still on, but this was around 8 years ago that they had done that. Rato Bangla School goes from preschool all the way to 12th grade, and starting from 6th or 7th grade, the students start taking part in the Model United Nations. And this has become international. This year it was online, so we had students from Sri Lanka and India and other places, but other times we have had our students go, and students from La Matinee in Calcutta, Ryan International Group from Delhi, Cathedral School in Mumbai, Doon School and Sanskriti School participate in this. So I feel that if good programs are available, people will just find them and come, just like water finds its level. I think this has been one example for us to see that collaboration really happens. Now, let me talk about the issues of education, challenges of education in Nepal, and how to bring quality in school education. The challenges are the politicization of education. The politicized hiring has created a cadre that is responsible for the various parties rather than the student. The best and the brightest do not have a chance to get a job even if they were attracted to teaching. Government funding for education for 2020 is only 11% of the national budget as opposed to the proposed 20%. And most of these goes to salaries and 3% only for education programs. The donor money is matched, so there is no question of equity here. Nepali schools will be as poor as Nepal is for the longest time because equity is only for the international scenario and not for us. Traditional teaching prevails. Teacher pours information to students and they regurgitate. Obsessed with marks, students forego all opportunities for developing life skills. Assessment is outsourced. Teachers are relegated to teaching only from the text. Rampant cheating makes Nepalis into dishonest people, not good for their future or for their country. Nepali children are deprived of the skills required to survive in the 21st century, where the only constant is change. Government schools where 80% attend has to do well. Private school is another issue. The government, the issue is highly politicized with the left party wanting to shut down private schools. Private schools do not have the confidence that the government has their back. Specific guidelines with oversight is needed to make them accountable, but this is not always available. Competition among private schools should allow and would allow the parents to get the best price and the students the quality education they deserve. Private schools must be awarded not for the quality of awarded for the quality of the graduates and not for the exam grades that they get. And public-private partnership should be encouraged. And now I want to talk a little bit about my own story, and I guess this is why I have been invited. I would not, it's not mine, but it's Ratha Bangla Institute's story. It's a story of a public-private partnership. Ratha Bangla today is 29 years old, and today is its birthday. So you can wish us happy birthday.
Very happy birthday.
And
Happy birthday, ma'am.
Happy birthday, ma'am.
Congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you. From its inception, Ratha Bangla School trained its own teachers as well as teachers from others, because we didn't want to be the only ones doing a certain kind of education and nobody else would understand what was happening. And 10 years after the school was started, we started Ratha Bangla Foundation in 2002 with a vision to transform communities through quality education. We set up a teacher training program together with Kathmandu University and Bank Street College of Education in New York. And this has been continued till date. In the same year, Ratha Bangla School Social Wing decided to work with 50 government schools in 5 districts of Nepal, namely Dhading, Makwanpur, Lalitpur, Myagdi, and Dailik. So we have tips to the needy students who would not otherwise be able to attend schools, to support a limited number of deserving but disadvantaged students in Ratha Bangla, and this still continues, and to assist public schools in remote areas in upgrading their facilities and equipment. School leaders came for a 3-day training to Kathmandu, to Ratha Bangla, and 2 teachers received a 3-month primary teacher training. One resource person hired by Ratha Bangla supported the 10 schools in each district. We worked like this for 5 years. The results were that we did transform schools, and some of these schools have become leaders in the district for government schools, or even nationally, they have received award. Parents' involvement increased, and the school students enjoyed learning, and corporal punish was definitely removed. But the takeaway was that not even, we trained 2 out of 5 teachers, and to expect that these 2 teachers would train everybody else was something that of an oversight, because the teachers who were trained sort of were arrogant, and they also felt, why should I work harder than the others? And the teachers who didn't get trained would say, why would I work harder? Because I didn't get trained. You got the training, so why don't you work? So even though there was some improvement, we felt that wasn't the way to go. So then our second phase was to, and also in terms of schools, some schools felt, like I am already selected, so I don't really need to work. And the schools that were not selected felt, why am I not selected? And felt resentful that way. So our phase 2 was to go to a district called Dai Lake and to do all the, in the beginning, there were around 400 schools, but by the time we ended, there were 513 schools. We hired a field officer and who worked with a resource person, and they worked like this. First, initially, it was for 5 years, but we added 2 years for 7 years. And we felt we did a good job, but the problem was that there were 6 district education officers that changed in those 7 years. So we just kept having to chase after the district education officer and explain everything to them and couldn't really move ahead. Over 1,000 principals and school management committee chairs came to Kathmandu for leadership training, and we trained over 1,800 teachers, over 3 weeks of face-to-face training, then 4 months of portfolio work with implementing the training in the classroom, then again 1 week of training, and 4 months of portfolio work, and eventually certification by the district education office. Student participation increased, teachers started using material to teach.
If you can conclude
Is
in
my
one,
time over?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
1 minute.
So it really worked well. So then after that, we came back to Lalitpur because we felt working with so many people, doesn't let us build the one. So we worked with schools in Lalitpur and we trained leaders. And then now our program is to work with the early childhood centers and child care centers and ECD programs, because we feel unless we are there to help the very young, as they call it, the first 1,000 golden days, where the brain is the most amenable to changes and to learning. Now, from going around the country and coming right back, we came to realize that the earliest years are the most important. And I end with 2 recommendations. One is that support for local municipalities to improve education in such a way that there will be competition to copy one municipality versus the other. There will be special attention to ECD curriculum down to them and let them grow as they deserve to in a developmentally appropriate way. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And now I want to invite the youngest panelist of the afternoon, Ms. Geeta Chetri Rana, ma'am. Ma'am, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. And last speaker, sometimes they have nothing to speak about, or sometimes they have got lots of points also. They get it from everyone. Anyway, it is my proud privilege to be able to share my views on building synergy in education between India and Nepal. I have been working in the field of education since 1975 and got my master's degree in mathematics from an Indian university, Uttarakhand University. I think someone knows it. In the last 45 years, I have seen lots of changes in the education system in Nepal. Changes are undeniable reality, but perhaps with an educated, informed youth, the changes will be for the better. That's what I believe. Okay, let me come to the point. We are here to discuss how to develop our education industry, I hope. That's what I understand. How to develop our education industry. Okay, first of all, I think we must take a look at the system of education around the world to understand the differences. We must also study the differences in the education system between the two countries in order to collaborate. There is no doubt there exists a difference in quality, though India and Nepal have similar types of cultures and societies. But what is creating that differences? That's what we have to find out. Otherwise, we will miss the root cause of the problem and we will not find the solution. Okay, in my 45 years, I have observed several distinctions that I believe to be important to us subject matter. And that subject matter is the cooperation of two different systems. I will not say two different countries, I'll say two different systems to produce. We need the cooperation so that we can produce a combined effort which can be greater than the sum of the two separate efforts. If we add both the efforts, India and Nepal, I think when we work together, collaborate, it will be more than that. That's what I believe. And now, in India especially, the whole family is involved in their wards education. The desire to excel in studies leads to excessive competition. Indian students manage to face toughest challenges. Nepal is a small but a beautiful country with hills, mountains, and rivers. Students have freedom to learn dancing, singing, painting, music, along with their studies. Competition is not very tough. It's only the creativity, but the competition is not very tough here. If you ask anyone what is quality, if you define quality, they simply say that what makes you feel happy, that's the quality. They'll not go beyond what it is. And ask anyone what is life, they'll say life is the part of the nature only. Very simple. Okay. So now you need to connect two different types of philosophies or definitions to meet our goal. Anyway, let's talk about the differences in education system. We are talking about first, I want you to understand the differences, then only we'll find the solution. First one is what I feel is the value of education. You value your education or not? Yeah. The Indian society places a higher worth in an education than the Nepali counterpart. How society views education plays an extremely important role in determining the quality of education available. The demand for something will determine the supply. If society were to demand and seek out better education, then eventually our education system would have to comply. The value of an education in a society also determine how a child will learn. The our challenge is how to educate our parents because the parents' involvement is very important. And secondly, what I feel the second distinction between these two countries is the difference between public and private sector. That's what Mrs. Santa Dixit already said. The difference between the public and private sector, the disparity in the education, in the quality of education between the two sectors in the field of education in Nepal is a necessary point of conversation. India gives more priority to education than Nepal. That is why there is not much differences between the government and the private school in India, except in ultra expensive schools. We all know the theory of relativity. So we are competing with the schools not very good in infrastructure, human resources, and all other things. So you can also understand the whatever private school we have in the country. And lastly, what I feel an important factor, very important factor, is the ability of the parents and guardians to supplement the education of the children. To what degree will the parents be able to help or teach their children will affect the learning ability and opportunity for that child. Children learn a great deal from their parents, but Nepal currently does not have an environment where the education needs of the child can be met. School system must talk about business and entrepreneurship apart from morals and knowledge. Definitely, we have to talk about knowledge, otherwise, there will be no students in our universities. Okay, lastly, what I want to say is given the differences of these two education systems, we must address how it is that we can improve. What are the measures that we must undertake? Given the differences in value, the ability of the parents, both financially and educationally, will pose many hurdles. Though Nepal has now realized the importance of education in the building of a nation, which India has realized immediately after its independence. The online classes due to pandemic is playing a big role in connecting across border education, especially gaining knowledge. But in order to develop their skill, students need good infrastructure and good human resources. A start to the development of quality of education in Nepal would be to have a government dictated standard for each grade for the material taught as well as for those who teach. Experts from both countries should sit together to share their experience in order to benefit the student communities in India and Nepal, as there are thousands of Nepalese students studying in Indian universities. If there is a political will between two government as well as between the private sectors, in private sectors, we can certainly create a synergy in the field of education. Such synergy will be mutually beneficial and will pave the way for a better understanding and stronger bond between our two nations. And that's what I want to say, that first find the differences and then how to solve. And if we think that way, I think we can collaborate. Otherwise, you will not understand our education systems and how our people think, what way the parents they think. We got to find, sometimes we should sit, experts can say, talk together and find the solutions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm really amazed to see the points, the quality of English that I've heard from your generation. Like the kind of quality of English you have learned must be, really excellent class. So with this, we come to the end of the first part of the discussion today. Thank you so much to of our school leaders and our higher education leaders, Ashish sir, Shanta ma'am, Bhanu sir, Geeta ma'am, and other speakers. Senthil sir, you are most welcome to comment in between anywhere you feel comfortable. And Ashish sir, thank you so much. We are going to explore a lot of points. We now want to go to the second part of our discussion. So I would request all
One
our...
point I would like to add here. So after listening to the both the warriors of school education system, there is a blurring difference between private education and public education. So only thing which is a common thing is for the public good or a common interest they work on. Where it comes the difference to mentor the student is to tell them about handhold them on transition from school education to higher education, and also mentor them on how to choose higher education institution. So if these 2 points integrate together, I'm sure that learning experience is going to be much more greater and beneficial for the student community.
Yeah, you reminded me this important point. The biggest or the worst victim of lack of seamless collaboration between school and university are the students. We often don't realize it. 80% of the students drop out after their class 12. From 8 till 12, 80% kids drop out. The biggest reason for this dropout is we don't counsel our students as per what kind of career should they make, what kind of education should they have post this. Believe me, 80 like a lot of Indian class 12 students have no clarity about their college education curriculum, no understanding about skill education, no understanding about entrepreneurial education. So we need absolute seamless university school connect. I think schools are doing it, but we need more, because skill and entrepreneurship has to come in school education. It cannot start from colleges. What we are currently doing, okay, once they are into college, now they are busy in career making and career planning. But it has to start from schools. That is why actually this kind of discussion, we have a balanced, speakers from schools and colleges are extremely important. Now with this, I request all our speakers, keynote speakers, kindly be with us, maybe on keeping your camera on or off, whatever you feel comfortable. But after the, again, speeches of the second session speakers, we will be having a little more interaction. That will be informal kind of interaction, then again, summarizing it. I want to request my co-moderator, Ms. Roshi, to kindly take over the session and then have the second part of the discussion.
Okay, thank you. I was not expecting this. Anyway, this is going to be another long session. So before I move on to the next session, I would take a moment to thank all our very esteemed panelists for the very thought-provoking sessions. I'm sure the discussions and the deliberation will continue. It has to. It is just a beginning of the beginning. So as Vanu sir correctly said, time is God and time is money, and we are in the business of education and we teach our students. So also to suggest that if at all you are hard pressed with time, we would also, you may feel free to leave as well. This is for our keynote speakers. Thank you for your time already. That was quite a good amount of time. So now moving on, I don't see Bhusan Chandra sir around, the principal of Chandbag School. So we are trying to go by the order, but he does not seem to have joined. So let me begin by asking Mr. Basantalal Lamichani, principal of Reliance Public School. The challenge with me is the time is even more limited, and so we'll try to keep it even more shorter, maybe three minutes at least. That's what we thought of, right?
5 minutes.
Oh, five. Oh, sorry. I suddenly made it too less. Okay, so maybe after the 3 minutes, I might want to give some, some signs as to say if at all you're exceeding your time. So over to you, Basanta.
Okay, thank you, Roshi ji and Akram ji and all the educators from India and the Nepal. Good evening and namaste. I am Basantala Lamithani, principal Reliance Public School. It is a graded school situated in eastern part of the Kathmandu Valley. The main motto of this school is to create the students with the culture. Basically focus the educations should go along with the culture, and without the cultures there is no the importance of the education. Basically moral values and understanding the cultural values, and obviously the skills, wisdom and the knowledge is a very important part of the educations, as already mentioned and delivered by the educators from Nepal and India. During this pandemic, the use of the technology is very important and also increasing in the days to come. As our school from the beginning, this basically focus on the digitalization in education, and another is collaboration with the other abroad educational institutions. We have already started the collaboration with two Indian schools, one from the Jaipur, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Vidya Ashram, and another is New Delhi. There is the Indian High School. Similarly, we have collaborations with some UK schools, and some Bangladeshi schools. In the previous days, our students used to visit their schools, and students from these schools visited our schools. But here I am going to elaborate means how this technology is important for this education. Even in these pandemic situations, obviously it help us, or it also encourage us to use more and more technology. And even within the schools, within our colleague, or within the parents or the students, we are using it. But not only that, through these means and media, also in these pandemic situations, we are collaborating with our partner schools. What I mean, that technology is a very essential for the education, and in order to enhance the quality of the technological advancement in the education, basically in the Nepal, I think there must be the good collaborations with the India and Nepal. India and Nepal culturally more or less similar, and even based on the curriculum is also the similar. Because of that, some technological software, or the less hardwares or devices, or any kinds of these technological issues is there, then we can easily collaborate with each other. That's why this is a very important part we have to use. Even this pandemic teaches us it is an essential part for the educations, but we have to continue it in the blending form. No need to stop, because in previous days we were in pandemic, that's why we use it, but the conditions is overcome. That's why no need to use this is not things, but we have to use this, or we have to continue the using of this technology in the days to come in the blending form. We have to use both types of these teaching pedagogies in the educations. Even though it is not only the matter of these particular schools in the Kathmandu Valley, or let's say some private schools and others, but while generalizing the things in overall the country, then some of the places or some schools, they are out of such types of resources, and because of this they are not able to do these all things. That's why there should be the collaborations with the India or Indian schools, or let's say Indian government and the Nepal government, so that such types of exchange or such types of collaborations can increase the synergy in the education system in Nepal, as well as it also benefits for the India. That's why the digitalization of the education is a need of the today's world, and all the people, including the parents, they are also using the same kinds of the digitalized devices in their workplace and others. That's why it is a need of time, and it is a very important to give a very impactful knowledge and skills to the students through this means. That's why it is very important, and
Thank you. I think
we
we
have
need
to
to
do the
close.
work on that
We need
part.
to close, Basantaji. Yes.
Okay, at the end, then my very concluding remarks is that while creating very good educational synergy in between India and Nepal, obviously we have to do work on that part, basically technological sharing and collaboration. Thank you, and over to you, Roshi ji.
Yes, thank you, Vasantaji. For some reason, I somehow feel that I forgot to introduce myself. Maybe I assume that everybody knows me, but I should have done that. Akramji also forgot to do that, probably. So I'm Roshi Lamitsani. I work as an assistant professor at Kathmandu University School of Education, and I take courses on marketing and research. Sorry to forgot have forgotten to do that in the very beginning. I absolutely agree with what Basantaji was mentioning about how we can collaborate in terms of the blended learning and the digitization that has come up in a very big way. So thank you for your key points there. So may I request now Mr. Ranjiv Kumar Anand, Vice Principal of Delhi Public School. Over to you, Ranjiv ji. Is he there? Or should we move next to Dr. Chandrayan? I mean, just not trying to lose time. Maybe if we can connect to Mr. Ranjiv, we'll come back. So over to you, Dr. Chandrayan Pradhan Shrestha, Principal, Malpi International School. Um, Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Roshi. I'd like to correct you. It's not doctor. And I think I've been talking about this to Akramji, that it is just Mr.
Okay.
Very good evening to everyone, all the eminent educators here in Nepal and from India. Synergy in education. After such eminent speakers, Geeta ma'am, Shanta ma'am, Ashish sir, Bhanu sir, Basant sir, everybody that I know personally on a personal level have highlighted what collaboration can do to both the nations. So I will want you to take you to a different paradigm altogether. We are in a post-COVID situation. Now schools are reopening. We are opening our school gates to welcome the students. My school is opening from the 1st of March. I am a principal of a residential school called Malpi International School, which is located 30 kilometers away from the Kathmandu city at a small village called in Panauti. And it's a completely residential school where we focus on, of course, academics, but on the all-round development. We have collaborated with schools from India, many schools from India, and also schools from Thailand, schools from Japan, schools from China, and with the ISA, International School Award Program, that was initiated by British Council. Many of the schools in Nepal have been in touch with some of the big schools in the UK and other countries. But India is so close to us, and we do not need a passport, anything, or nor does any Indian require a passport to come to Nepal. You don't have to have, you could have a passport, but you don't need a visa to come to a country, nor do we need a visa to come to your country. So, we have an open border. So how can we make the synergy out of this is not only thinking of one side of how we can get good education in India, but also now the primary school, the school education is becoming very, very strong here. I want to give you 6 reasons. First of all, as many of us have said, that we are a peaceful country. There is no problem, okay? Here Buddha was born and everybody believes in peace. I think all our educators will agree. We have all type of terrains, from the hills to the lowlands to the plains. And the weather, as Bhanu sir mentioned, it is an air conditioner country. We have wonderful weather. We have a strong cultural values that we strongly believe in. And at this present time, if you see the data of the last 10 months, we have less COVID victims and people are very safe. If you go anywhere outside Kathmandu, people have stopped wearing masks and are just traveling like that. And lastly, economically, it is very, very feasible. So my school, Malpi International School, was developed by 50 different people from different walk of lives, doctors, engineers, who thought that there were a lot of parents from Nepal sending their children for education to India. So why not we develop such a school that those parents can have that type of a residential facility for their children here itself in Nepal, in a very beautiful and serene location. That is how the school was founded 20 years back. So my appeal to the Synergy in Education group that we have formed here is not look at the other side, the grass is greener on the other side, but also look at this side where the grass is much richer, greener, peaceful, very, very economic. And how can we create that impact where, our Nepalese education could also be given, whether it be school level education, whether it be tertiary level education, to the India counterpart, because that can also be worked on. And maybe at a point of time when our conversation goes further, we can work into, creating models as to how we can work, what type of, somebody mentioned a virtual university that we could create. And the virtual delivery, as Ashish sir mentioned, has been a reality, a sooner reality. We didn't know that we could, work on such platform. So why don't we use these things which are available in both the countries, for that, so that it is a win situation for India and it is a win-win situation even for Nepal. So this, I just want to highlight, it's slightly different because many of us talked about collaboration, but let us also look into this side of collaboration where we look into not only from India, but from other places as well, that Nepal can also be another touristic destination, not only to see the mountains, but also for education. With this, I'd like to end here. Over to
Thank
you,
you.
Roshi.
Thank you, Chandrayanji. That was perfectly on time. Perfect. So thank you for bringing that wonderful idea about the climatic advantage that we have as a nation. If about Ranjiv ji is not here, I would like to move on to Mr. Sunoz Das Shrestha. And so far, we've been hearing about primary, secondary. Let's hear something about the technical or the vocational side of education, and somebody from Karkhana can tell us and enlighten about that. So, over to you, Mr. Sunoz Das Shrestha.
Thank you, Rosiji. Good evening, everyone, and I'm very happy to be sharing this platform with all these innovative educators from Nepal and India. I think I know most of the educators here personally, and I'm meeting I think the Indian counterparts for the first time, and I'm really excited from this I think journey. I think this will be a beginning of a new journey, and maybe a starting point for a new collaboration. And I'd like to thank Miss Rusi and Mr. Akram for this opportunity and for having Karkhana as a part of this webinar. So I think I should talk about Karkhana a little bit because it's the same word in India and Nepal. So it means a factory, right, where something is made. And we chose this name particularly for our organization because the way I think I am taught, and I think most of us are taught, it's mostly we use books, textbook, pen, and maybe copy to learn, right? And but I always had this question like where and when I will be using this concept, and without applying that concept, I think I would never understand it. And Karkhana is a perfect place where you apply your knowledge. You use your hands and minds together to create something, right? And that is one of the reasons why we chose Karkhana as the name of our organization. And I think since we're talking about cross-border collaboration, one of the core values of Karkhana is that we like to share whatever we know to catalyze the change. And we do have like collaborated a past collaboration with India. For example, we've collaborated with Asar India to run this math literacy assessment project. And we are also working with the American Center in New Delhi to implement a year-long program for makerspace. And with the success of that program, we are now working with the staffs of American Spaces in Mumbai and Ahmedabad in conducting TOT to promote entrepreneurship skills in youth in that region. So I think there are a lot of work going on in that side, where it's mostly with scaling up with the kids and the staff of the American Spaces. But I think talking about the middle school, I think there's a change in the curriculum as well in India and Nepal. And the change curriculum is quite good and it's quite progressive because it focuses on 21st century skills and coding and AI and then scientific learning, sustainable development goals. So there's a lot of good things coming out of this new curriculum. And I think a lot of focus is given on science and computing. In general, I think the computing curriculum of India and Nepal, I think still needs reform. And it's not up to date because whatever we are still learning in even like in grade 9, 10, even like secondary education is still outdated and has no context in the current industry. So there's huge gap between what's taught in the school and what's need in the industry, right? So I see a lot of opportunity to rethink this curriculum, and we already have worked on a open source primary computing curriculums that is in our website, and I think everyone can use it. And we have also written textbook around that, and which has been piloted for like last 2 years in different schools in Kathmandu. I think another important aspect of the change in the curriculum is, I think, the science curriculum. And in
Sunoji, you'll
general,
have
I
to
think,
close now. Yeah.
yeah, and I think in general there's problem with how our teachers are teaching in the schools, and there's lack of resources, lack of like time for research and designing these hands-on materials. So Karkhana has been working in creating these hands-on materials for teachers and for students that converts a classroom into lab of discovery. And we love to get these resource materials in India as well. I also like the idea of like creating these teacher training programs, teacher certification program that is uh, respected on the both side, so that teachers know how to run hands-on classes, and then they know how to cover the curriculum in a progressive way, so that we can prepare 21st century digital citizens, right? So I see there's a lot of opportunities like these, and I am very happy, and I welcome like from partners from India and even from Nepal, I think, to talk to us, and let's see if we can collaborate together in coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunoji. I believe that Karkhana is, as an institute, is working a lot to focus on hands-on education, on experiential learning, right? That's something very unique about you. But yeah, time is a constraint here, so I'll request Mr. Somraj Paniru, the vice principal from Chandbag School, to share his thoughts, and in within the 5 minutes. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you, Roshiji.
I think there's an echo, so I probably you'll have to close either your laptop or a mobile. Are you on in both devices? Please close one of these. Okay.
Thank you, Roshiji and Akramji, for giving me an opportunity to speak on this platform. Before me, there were a lot of veteran educators who talked about many things, who talked about things to be done between India and Nepal to bring up the quality of education. Thank to Policy Times for giving an opportunity. Uh, there's a time constraint here, so I would like to just pinpoint on specific things. Like I did my schooling from India, and now I'm working in Nepal. So I know most of the schools in India and Nepal, they are same. If you take you know if you take in quality or quantity wise or quality wise, if you compare, they are same. In villages in India, schools are same like schools in Nepal in villages, and schools in cities are same like schools in cities in India. So I don't think so. There are much differences between Indian education system and Nepal education system. Maybe one or two subjects, maybe little bit different, like social studies or environment or something. This kind of subject might be different. Otherwise, the curriculum, if you see, and the way of teaching, the way of approach of teachers, if you see, it is more or less same. So there is nothing to debate on that. So my concern will be here, like in 21st century, when we are talking about vocational subject, when we are talking about we should make children learn more vocational or more hands-on activities. So there should be a collaboration between India and Nepal, especially workshop or seminars or this kind of webinars, especially for teachers. So teachers of different school or different place, they can exchange their thoughts, because I have seen in Nepal there are very good progressive schools who are following very good method of teaching, and there are schools in India who are following the same thing, and there are schools of India who are missing this thing, and in Nepal missing this thing. So we as an educators, we don't only see what is happening in my school. So if we can, if Policy Times can take an initiative and conduct such kind of seminars or workshop for teachers, where they can share ideas and they can learn from each other. It can be webinars, or it can be physically done in India or in Nepal, some institution, or some organization like Policy Times can do this. So this is my first point that I want to keep here. Other things, we believe in global citizen. We don't we believe in global citizen. So it should start from the school, because for every profession, for everything that we do, that we have, okay, school is a mother for everything. So we want India, as we have same culture, we have same food, we have same lifestyle. So we want India and Nepal to collaborate and see that how we make our student a global citizen. Not very nowadays we have seen a lot of political disturbance in Nepal and India, where we have because of this what we call diplomatic relation, or I don't know, negative thoughts in India, negative thoughts in Nepalese students is been put. So such kind of if negative thoughts are taken out, that can only happen if we do this kind of collaboration, what we are talking about, today's discussion. So if we think into it, I think there will be a lot of good things, or good things children will learn in the school. That is one thing.
Somji, you need to
And
start
there are
closing
many
it
activities
now.
that take place. That are many activities that take place in India, sports, or it may be culture, art, history, geography. So many things. Indian students, they have learned differently, and Nepal students, they learn about their country. So if this can also be exchanged between the countries, that will be also a great thing, and children will learn more about each other country,
Somji, you'll have
so
to
to have
conclude
good
now.
feeling for each other.
You'll have to
So this
conclude.
is what I want to share here, because many things that I want to share, I jot down, and many things have been included by educators here. So thank you, Roshi ji, and thank you, Akram ji, for giving me an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for keeping it to the time. I think I missed Mr. Avanendra Love. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. From Modern Indian School. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, veterans, eminent academicians. Well, after having listening to all the speakers, I would just focus myself on 2 points. The first point would be roles or participation of youngsters, and the second point would be the use of IT. Well, 21st century education implies revising all clauses in the educational agreement and redefining and redesigning rights and duties for all parties under new understanding. Generational viewpoints exist and need to be made visible to profit from their potential. Rethinking leadership strategies under a generational perspective and analyzing stakeholders' strengths and weaknesses in a generational mood may open up new paths and may be easier done than said. Multi-generational organizations require Gen Savvy leaders who can take off their own generational lens in search of greater insight into the needs and motivation of the people who make up their communities. Strategic planning can be better carried out when generational filters are applied. Even so, knowing how each generation is profiled and prefers to interact with others in the educational contract may build sustainability, foster inclusivity, and strengthen the development of intelligent organizations that include all stakeholders alike in creating, developing, and maintaining profound positive synergy. At times, Deeply rooted practices that belong to former generations of stakeholders prevent synergy from happening. Differentiating the way they collectively perceive reality may ease the path to find and achieve collective goals. Well, individuals born after 1995 have also recently joined schools or school cultures as novice teachers. These digital natives share distinct generational traits that are deeply impacting most institutional cultures and need to be considered when in search of synergy. Generational difference take the lead in bringing people together, setting them apart. Decoding the big whys behind the what's of collective behavior and building generational empathic understanding helps design new paths and find out creative hows to reach joint objectives. Uh, well, intelligent, no, sorry, the institutions, any institutions, move from good to great when students, parents, and staff plan to combine the unique efforts towards jointly chosen aim while avoiding serendipity in what they achieve. Knowing group strengths and weaknesses of all age-related school stakeholders may provide firm foundation for growth and a good starting point for culture exchange. Remember that intelligent organizations interdeveloped learning for all member results. So basically, we had time constraints. I guess I did not exceed the time. So I just
Right
focused
on time.
myself on those 2 points: use of IT and the role of youngsters in building up the synergy between Nepal and India. Thank you, the Policy Times, for providing me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avanendraji. Thank you for being right on time. Now, moving on next to Mr. Prakash Pathak, Principal, Damodar Academy. So, your points in within 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Roshiji. Am I audible?
Yes, perfectly. Yes.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank UPS and the Policy Times for providing a youngster like me an opportunity to be in the panel with such great academicians and educators of Nepal and India. So when we're talking about the topic that is synergy of education in Nepal and India, I would like to start with that. I am a byproduct of the synergy of education in Nepal and India because I'm born in Nepal, but educated from India right from my kindergarten up to my master's degree. So I have actually known it by close ways that how this relationship between these two countries is bonded. And what I would like to stress here is that the dreams, the opportunities, the platform that I got during my education system, uh, when I thought of a business and I thought of an idea. So I come from a very rural area of Nepal, which is in Mohtari district. The reason my parents sent me away was because there is lack of educational proper infrastructure here of the education system. So I had to go outside and study. But when during a family discussion, when it was asked to me what should we do next, so I proposed that let's open a school which would be as good as the schools that I studied in Darjeeling or in Delhi. So that was the idea that established this particular institution, which right now I'm presently heading. Uh, the another thing that I would like to share here is that um, I can be I am a perfect partner of the synergy in India and Nepal because I have this institution in Nepal and a similar institution just cross border across India also. So I'm the byproduct and represently giving the same facilities in both the countries. So that's the how the way the school got established. But Geeta ma'am already shared with us the challenges that schools in Nepal presently facing, rampant cheating and the problems of focusing more on marks rather than education. Those are the challenges that are very difficult for the future generation. When I sometimes speak here in the local arena, in the local places, I sometimes focus on that what will happen to the generation who are just born, who will be teaching them. Those teachers at that time will be the byproduct of the present fraudulent system that is existing, which needs to be gone. Otherwise, we'll be seeing much more challenging times in the future. When we talk about collaboration with India, I would like to stress on the diplomatic part, the diplomacy part, because the relationship between India and Nepal um, has not been a very stable one. It has kept on fluctuating from quite a long time now, and that has affected the psychological thinking of the Nepalese and the Indian counterpart, and that has somehow affected the relationship between both the countries. And uh, more than the positive, I would say there has been an adverse effect on the relationship between both the countries. So the diplomatic part should find better channels, better ways to solve the issues. Otherwise, I'm running here a CBSE school in Nepal, and we are almost always on the walls by the government. We are always pushed against the wall. Sometimes the government changes, they come and make new laws, new policies for us, and it's very difficult when we are challenged. And because the focus shifts us away from education to politics for the schools also. So that is one of the diplomatic problems that needs to be challenged. Solved by the Indian counterpart as well as the Nepalese people, Nepalese government. When we talk about collaboration, I would suggest that more universities should partner up with, both the countries' universities should partner up, and Nepal should open doors for establishment of Indian universities here in Nepal also. Uh, and
Neerajji, I think you should start closing it also now. Yeah.
Okay, sure, sure. Just 2 points. So, and like Bhanu sir said that we need to focus on research and development and innovation. And lastly, I would like to say that the promotion of Sanskrit, Vedic, and cultural studies should be a point that should be in the curriculum between both the countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prakashji. Now, finally, Mr. Niroj Maharjan, Principal Anal Jyoti Boarding School. Uh, you've been waiting patiently, so over to you now.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I'm also asked to make some concluding thoughts on all of the speakers. So the beauty of this program, what I found is that all of us agree that there should be cross-border collaborations and explore the global connections. So I like that idea very much, because we all mentioned that we should not be confined within a certain way of thinking or a limited boundaries of thinking, but should be open to cross-border and connect globally. That idea I like the most. And also, like some of the speakers mentioned, like Nepal and India, we are culturally very much same. There is we both education patterns that is much more linked with the Oriental pattern. So every most of the speakers, they agree that in one way or the other way, in some aspects, the stories that has been shared by Mr. Basantala or even Chandrayan sir or even Sundas or Somraj, everyone share that they have some type of collaborations with the schools in India, and they are doing that. So what I want to speak more is that I remember around 4-5 months ago, Chandan sir is also here. What we did once was a panel discussion with the topic of response of COVID-19 for schools around the world, not only between Nepal and India. So even Chandan sir was one of the speakers. So where we mentioned that there should be now some interventions in the teaching pattern of what we are doing, and some innovations and some integrations of technology has to be done, because as some of the speakers has already mentioned that there is virtual deliveries or MOOC classes or blended learning, all of these things. Now the classes are not just confined within the four walls of the schools. The classes could be linked together. Even the Indian students or Nepal students or even the UK students, they can be in the same class, virtual class. We can have this type of session, like though we are geographically far apart, but still we can come closer in this way. And even our classrooms or our delivery or pedagogical aspects could go in this way. I like that idea that most of the speakers mentioned in that way also. So to say something from my viewpoint also, as few of the speakers has mentioned also, that there should be some redesigning and rethinking in education. And I find the sense of this webinar that we are discussing now is rethinking on education pattern. So we all agree that education means to develop some entrepreneurial skills of the students, or making them innovative, or making them confident citizens of the world. So when we are thinking in that way, somewhere I find one part lacking. Uh, Maybe I'm not very much like knowing on this matter, but one thing what I find is that most of the academic institutions, we focus the students to be confident or creative or innovative. So are the creations made by the students are connected with the industries? I mean, like whenever we come for the innovations and some new tools in the market, they mostly come from the European or the American countries. What about Nepal or India? So I do not find a lot the innovations that the students do, or the creations that the student make, that are linked with the academic, that are linked with the productions of the, or maybe says are not properly linked with the industrial productions. So in such cases, we are often, like when we say that should be linked with those entrepreneurship, I find some gap when we talk about this one. But anyway, most of the speakers mentioned that there is a need for the integration of curriculum between India and Nepal, or even the, I mean, like integrations means integration of sharing of the teaching learnings. That could be done. And moreover, some of our speakers also mentioned some differences, but mostly most of the speakers mentioned there are much more similarities. Finally, what I would like to say is that for the institutional harmony and educational synergy, this webinar has played an immense role, and this is really wonderful. And thank you for making me a part of this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neeraj. That was, you made our job much easier by summarizing the entire discussion. So over to Akramji now.
Thank you so much, Roshiji. Wonderful, actually, summary of the discussion. I would request all our speakers if they can come in camera. So now, after all individual speeches, we will take like a closing comment or closing thing from here. A lot of points, a lot of food for thought. I would first request our co-organizer, and without whom this program would not have been possible, Senthil sir, to say a few things on here, and then we'll take bit comments from others.
Thanks, Akram. And I must acknowledge on record, Akram and Roshi, a fantastic job in pulling some of the like-minded people. In case if we want to have a serious engagement, one strong thing is like-minded people should come forward and start the dialogue. And you have done a fabulous job in getting the right set of people who are thought leaders in their respective area to contribute on that. And I very well agree there are a lot of synergies can be built in, because not just only because of the neighborhood, but also for the culture and the tradition and history we share with each other. We have a long way to go. And I would also take a point here to mention that um, if you talk about the closing comment of Mr. Niroj Maharaj was mentioning about the innovation, the technology transfer, we say, or a innovation transfer from education institution to corporates across the world. It's happening, and this has been a very important area where India and Nepal should also work on, because the every single innovation happens in academic institution. You talk about Google, you talk about Facebook. It's all happened in education institution that has been a great model of success across the world. So the innovation and the kindle of thought, the fire is actually lit while in the process of educating this the student, either in a school or in a college or in a university. So that has to be handled with a care, so that that really transmit to the transfer to the industry as well. So there is a great point, and a lot of work has to go in that area as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to extend a warm collaboration on each and every aspect, different formats and different levels of education, which it includes higher education as well as school education to a greater extent as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. You yourself, I found one of the most intellectuals, and the way you are contributing intellectually in the discussion is also really praiseworthy. I have not seen or come across many, marketing perspective, or coming someone from marketing perspective having so intellectual in-depth, analysis and understanding about subjects is also pretty clear. That kind of quality that your institution is providing, that clearly reflects. So now we are open. So there is no time foundation. So as long, if you want to speak for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you can continue. We are not going to end now because all of our speakers spoken. But it is certainly not the case because we also have other works to do. Any comment or observation or summary points, maybe in 1 or 2 bullet points? Anyone? It is open now. Anyone? You can raise your hand or you can unmute yourself and talk.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, Sunodji.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of discussion, I think, around higher education and primary education, and I think my interest would be in the middle school, or let's say from let's say K to 12 or K to 10. And I think the skill universities, even I think universities may have like resources, but I think schools are quite limited on how they can like support their teachers with the resources and with all the materials required to transform their schools, and the change in the, I think, new curriculum has added additional pressure to the school, I think, and the school teachers, because uh, the way now we are teaching is just based on book, right, and pen and copy, and it has to change. I think everyone agrees in that point, and everyone has realized with this COVID situation that the way the students are being taught is very limited, and it could be better with use of materials and like less screen time.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah.
and I think we would love, and I think these schools and school leaders also need to think of how they can partner with other institutions like us, like Karkhana, and get a value out of it, because we have expertise in like engineering, in designing, in manufacturing, right, in lesson creation. So, and I think to have these in a school is a very expensive resource, but I think we can be a hub where schools can like use our expertise and our service. And I think even from India as well, right? So I think this kind of collaboration is also, I think, would be very interesting for organizations like Karkhana, and also I think for education institutions across India and Nepal. I think that's my thought.
And thank you. Any other comment? Any comment from any speaker? Shanta ma'am, I think you want to say something. Shanta ma'am,
can I really think that we, it's so much easier in a way to talk about tertiary and to talk about, like high level education, but we will not start from the bottom. And we've talked about so many similarities, cultural and all others, between India and Nepal. I think a lot of our child rearing practices are also quite similar. So if we could talk about the first golden 1,000 days and find similarities and make it fun for people, because we would talk about how we get all these resources only from Europe and thing, but nothing here. But I'm sure we have so many ways of raising our children and making them little dolls, rag dolls and stuff that, has died down over the years, to continue with that and to have good child rearing. And I'm sure you all are familiar with Heckman curve, and he has shown that investment in early childhood gives the highest returns. So it's literally, it goes like this. If you invest in the mother who's pregnant, it's the highest, and then it keeps going down, and it goes down, starting with primary and secondary and tertiary. And then when you talk about adult education, it's the lowest returns, and professional education is even, like we have in our culture, we say, you cannot teach an old parrot. I'm not saying you cannot teach an old parrot. You can teach an old parrot also, but the input that you will have to put is much higher. So the only thing is, like, we want quick returns. Like, if we go to high school, it's only 2 years. If we go to college, it's 4 years. That's so easy. But if we invest in the very, very young, then we have to wait for 20 years or 25 years to get that, but then everybody gets there, so somehow I want to talk about this to this group, like, do think about early childhood and do think about how the brain works, because this is when the children really grow. 95% of the brain is already done by the time they are 5 years of age, so there is not much brain growth after that, but we know that there's plasticity and then there's learning till we die, but the amount that we learn is incrementally smaller. So just to belabor that point and bring that, because we're all thinking of higher level and professional education and technical education, but in that, what can we do about the youngest? And I would be very glad to work on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think one of our speakers is joining now. So, yeah, Vasantalal also got disconnected, I think. Okay, Vasantalal sir is coming back. Any other comments, or Geeta ma'am, would you like to say something? Then we can formally. We had 19 speakers today. We did a wonderful time management. I'm really happy. Geeta ma'am, your wisdom, with such long years of experience and experience in working in the education sector, and you are also seeing the post-COVID future. So huge difference you are going to see also. Any point that you want to add? You have to unmute, ma'am. Do you know how to unmute? No, you have to learn it also. I am giving you a command to unmute anyway, if you can. Great. So excellent, I think. Yeah, Geeta ma'am, if you can, would be great. Otherwise, we then formally close it. Because you are our elder, I wanted to take the closing comment from you. No issue, ma'am. If you can't, then with this, I think I would request. So there are three. Yeah. Okay, you got it.
Okay, now that's okay. Okay. Now, okay, we have been hearing so many things. I think every time I always tell everyone there are three very important things we have. One is your luck, how lucky you are. Some children are very, very lucky. The parents are very rich. They can get everything. They can buy the skill, they can buy the brain, they can do everything because they are very lucky. And there is a second group, very talented. It's the God gifted. They are talented and that way they are very lucky. But there are some students, neither they have got the luck nor they have the talent. And for them, the most important thing is skill. Skill is a one factor which you can learn. You don't need the luck, you don't need the talent. But if you really want to learn something, skill, I'm talking about not knowledge, skill, I think that you can gain. Every time in the school I have seen there are many students, maybe they are not lucky, maybe they are not talented, but they know how to do lots of things. But in my opinion, they are very skillful. It's okay. But it should be connected with the entrepreneurship, business.
Absolutely.
Nepal has lots of resources. So most of them, they want to just go and work under something. But if in the school we teach them your skill, you convert it in the form of entrepreneurships and business, and also, and so your children will become lucky in future. They can get everything. I think this type of seminar, workshop, what we are learning, it will take us, I think, many years to learn so many things. What everyone was saying here, my experience, and so, but I think within how many hours it has gone? I think just 2
2
or 3.
hours, 14 minutes.
And we have learned so many things, I think. You cannot imagine also. If you read the books also, you cannot get so much of knowledge. Thank you very much to the organizer, Mr. I, Kumar. He's also from Dehradun. I have
Thank
also
you,
studied
Master.
in Dehradun. So to everyone, I want to thank that. Okay, next time also, please conduct this type of workshop.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. UPES, University and Policy Times together are going to organize a series of such webinars. Unless we reach out to the last teacher and principal of Nepal, we will continue doing it. So that is our commitment, and we want to achieve three things. Unless our education system is world class, we cannot be world class. We have to keep this in our mind, and our mission is we will make the education system transparent and world class. We cannot make alone. We all together will make the education system better, and that is how we will also able to contribute to make our countries better. So we will also organize a series of programs with students. So there are two set of series we organize. One is interaction with educators and policymakers. The other set of discussion we do is with students in terms of career guidance, programs, because students also need massive amount of career guidance options in their life, and that is how they get better. So we are really lucky through digitally in India. We have been able to guide students, almost more than 5 to 6,000 students last year. Like we help them make better choice in career, whether career in engineering or career in science, career in pharma, career in management, career in law. So that is also another angle we always bring in our discussion. So with this, by thanking Geeta ma'am, Senthil sir also being patiently hearing the entire session, Roshi ma'am, supporting and helping us organizing this, and all our Shanta ma'am. I cannot take all the names, but I mean, Nirod sir, wonderful, Sunod sir, wonderful to have you all. So with this, we formally close today's program. And we are doing our next program on 15th February. So we'll be in touch with you.